Did you know that there are nearly 120 million tons of pork consumed each year? As the global voice for the pork industry, National Pork Producers, NPPC, National Pork Producer Consumers, NPPC, advocates for the social, environmental, and economic stability of the pork in the United States and their partners by fighting for reasonable public policies, defending our freedom to operate and expand access to global markets. The NPPC is federally funded and it funds research as well as educating consumers and producers. Keeping the Pork Council funded and in business is very important to keep pork consumption where it needs to be in general. Me having experience showing pigs has given me an inside look on how important the Pork Council is and how important just pork consumption is and the pork industry itself. I've also done an extensive amount of research on NPPC to help me with this speech. Keeping the National Pork Production Council supported and funded is very important to keep the pork going in the right direction. The National Pork Producers Council helps the pork industry by promoting the consumption of pork while striving for well-being of the animal. The NPPC also values and prides themselves on keeping the best quality of pork consumption possible for all consumers. They also advocate how much the pork industry adds to the economy and how pork is such a needed thing in our society today. The NPPC promotes the consumption of pork while striving for the well-being of the animals. The NPPC doesn't support California's 12 proposition, which many may think actually helps the well-being of the animals and the people, but in all reality, it hurts more. What is California's 12th proposition? California regulations require veal calves, breeding pigs, and egg-laying hens to be housed in systems that comply with specific standards for the freedom of movement, cage-free design, and specified minimum floor space. These regulations also prohibit a farm owner or operator of knowingly confining these species in a cruel manner, as well as prohibits a business owner or operator from knowingly engaging in the sale of shell eggs, liquid eggs, whole pork meat, or whole veal meat from animals housed in a cruel manner. So this would be farrowing crates for sows, which may seem like a dangerous thing, but in all reality, it keeps the sow safer. It can also help keep the baby pigs safer because sometimes the sows can waller on them if they have any more room, and it just provides a comfortable living area for both the sow and the piglets. The California 12 proposition is also making prices skyrocket for pork because farmers in California are not allowed to breed and farrow sows how they are used to and how is ethically and economically easiest. It makes the prices skyrocket for consumers. The NPPC not supporting is crucial for the pork being consumed to stay at reasonable levels and also to keep the farmers raising the pork in California safe and being able to continue their pork production. The proposition states that sales in California of pork products when the seller knows or should know that meat came from offspring of a breeding pig that was confined in a cruel manner. This means that sows must have at least 24 feet of living space, which is just not reasonable for the producers, and also it's not necessary for the sows. Sows can live in much smaller confined areas and still have good lives. The NPPC is one of the biggest advocates for the pork industry they pride themselves on keeping the best quality of pork in consumption possible. If California's 12 proposition would go into effect, then the cost of pork would just increase, and the NPPC showing that they are against this helps to show how they care about the producers, but that they value also the consumers that are trying to support the pork industry, but they need it at a reasonable price. The NPPC's webpage is dedicated to keeping the world updated on news of the pork industry and keeping consumers and not only producers but also consumers educated too, to keep them up to date on new things in the pork industry that they might not see otherwise. The NPPC also advocates how much pork adds to the economy. This report underscores how the pork industry is an important pillar to the U.S. economy, and that the ripple effect as on many other sectors in the American supply chain, said Holly Cook, NPPC staff economist. From farm to fork, the combined economic contribution from hog production and pork processing supports more than 600,000 American jobs and generates $178 billion of direct, indirect, and induced sales that equate to $57 billion in value-added GDP. There's an estimated 613,000 jobs that relate back just to the pork industry in the U.S. alone. In 2021, more than 66,000 U.S. pork marketed 140 million hogs, valued at over $28 billion gross cash receipts. The sales generated from hog marketing and pork processing support a total economic contribution of $35 billion in personal income and $57 billion in value added. Supporting the NPCC and keeping them funded is important to keep the correct direction going in the correct direction of the pork industry. The NPPC helps the pork by promoting the consumption of pork while striving for the well-being of the animals in the best ways they possibly can. Thank you.